Most trees like to stay where they're planted. Even the ones that talk, like Grandmother Willow from Pocahontas or the Great Deku Tree from The Legend of Zelda. Some of the more lively examples, like the Whomping Willow from Harry Potter or the Kite-Eating Tree from the Peanuts, get pretty rowdy and still don't move. Even the Ents from the Tolkien universe have a tendency to grow roots when they find a suitable patch of Middle-earth to just sit down in. So what do you do when you want to play a roving tree spirit like the Green Man, Eurydice from Hades, or Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy? Do you really have to cut down an entire grove of precog trees just so you can build a talking boat? Looking at you, Jason. Well, that's what we're going to try and find out. Hi, I'm Gabriel Mercer, and this is Tablehaven. Your average dryad isn't much to write home about. They're fey-like creatures that make their home in the woods and look like the love child of an elf in a tiki mask. They're traditionally limited to monsters in the tabletop space because, well, they live in a tree. As much as you might like the idea of a chia fairy that carries an entire tree on their back like a snail, even hand-waving encumbrance isn't going to make getting through doors any easier for Barkback Mountain. So when we wanted to design a Narnia-inspired one-shot based on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, we needed one of our pre-gen playable characters to be a dryad, which meant we now had a problem. How do you take a boatload of mythology that's steeped in gender issues and rooted in geography and make it a viable ancestry for your players? As it turns out, the answer is by killing them. Let me start from the beginning. In our Narnia-inspired one-shot, the only rule we made was no humans. So much of C.S. Lewis's world lore is built around the effect that human beings have in the lands beyond the wardrobe. They're a force for change, one so big that each time they arrive in Narnia, the world is never the same afterwards. So this was less about reimagining someone's work and more about getting to play in the same sandbox as Jadis, Aslan, and Mr. Tumnus. There are plenty of magical creatures with a variety of ancestry in Narnia and beyond. Things like satyrs, centaurs, cyclops, and a whole zoo's worth of uplifted animals. You can cover the bulk of them by using a combination of the Mythic Odyssey of Theros or the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica sourcebooks. We even adapted the Leonin ancestry and called them the Children of Aslan. While all of that worked beautifully to support the concept of mythic creatures as PCs, it still didn't help us pry that tree-hugging dryad out of the woods. For that, we would need to dig a little bit deeper. Like 1.5 editions deeper. Back in 2004, James Jacobs wrote Spells of the Woodlands for Dungeons & Dragons Edition 3.5. In a now archived article, Jacobs had a spell called Acorn of Far Travel, which allows a dryad to maintain the connection with their tree through an enchanted acorn without growing sick, no matter how far the physical distance. It was like an all-natural Horcrux for the busy dryad on the go. We all know how that worked out. Still, it wasn't a bad place to start. At least there was some precedent in the game for mythbending. But let's push it a bit further. Why not? Go big or go tree, am I right? The traditional dryads from Greek mythology are constrained in a number of different ways, and there were two big sticking points that were gumming up the works of our one-shot. The first was that almost all dryads are depicted as female. The qualities of fertility, nurturing, and protection were often ascribed to women even in the realms of magic. The second was that dryads typically only came from a single type of tree, oaks mostly. By definition, they were a variant branch ancestry under the larger nymph canopy. So naturally, it was time to tip our axe to all that legacy thinking and then toss it right in the compost heap. Dryads are magical creatures that both inhabit and embody the quality of trees. Trees are technically considered asexual. Did they even need gender? As a parallel to our biology and a touchstone in a secondary world, it's possible that these beings might present as masculine or feminine. Sure, why not? What we're more concerned with is how a dryad's fundamental makeup might compel them to leave their tree. And as it turns out, the answer is found in nature itself, and how civilized animals and polite society are actually bad for the Narnian environment. Turns out smart magic is no good for climate change. Let me explain. See, Narnia is full of plants and animals that are sentient and can communicate. Fruits and nuts are actually the children of the trees. And that means that something as simple as a squirrel absconding with a stray acorn is a matter of consent. You've either got malicious woodland creatures that are stealing plant babies, or an entire economy that needs to be built for foster vegetation, neither of which is very Narnian. In a world where you can't rely on animals to carry pollen or seeds, you're left with the will of the winds, which is pretty unreliable, or wherever the lowest hanging fruit happens to fall. In only a few decades, every forest would start to feel like an overcrowded cabbage cart, unless dryads carry the seeds. Yes, that's right. You've got an entire ancestry that springs organically from circumstances unique to Narnia, and an excuse to get Barkback off the mountain. Win-win. The whole culture is built around being the best acorn of far travel you can be. It's a drive built into the dryad biology for them to range as far afield as possible before they pass away, because survivability in complex environments breeds stronger trees. Stronger trees means hardier dryads, which means longer travel, and better endurance in harsh conditions. And the cycle then loops back in on itself. Oh, but wait, there's more. What about dryads that aren't seed bearers? Now you've got a nice bit of internal conflict to work with. What does it mean if you're a dryad that doesn't carry the beginnings of new life? What if instead they do, and the conditions for that life to flourish seem impossible to meet? What if you're the last of your kind or the first of a new lineage? How would that change the class you choose or the way you view risk and reward? What is a dryad that doesn't have a tree to call home? In our version of this ancestry, dryads are the shooting stars of the natural world. Those are the kinds of stories that become myths and legends, and the stuff that great games are made of. If you have any questions about how to use a dryad ancestry or lineage in your game, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you'd like to share your homebrew ancestry or lineage that's based on a mythical creature, jump into the Tablehaven Discord. And that's where we'll end today's session. Thanks for watching.
You must not. Don't leave my microphone. Have to record a good take. Have to do good.
We like it at 3. Oh, yeah, we like it at 3. Questions. Outro, and bloop. Woo! Energy, momentum, power, other stuff that is strong and effective. Like tea. Are we back in the game? I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Bring in the thunder. Sort of thunderous. It's like lightning is a thing, but just the noise. It's bright. Okay. I have blue light glasses. Sponsored by Gunner.